In a medium-sized bowl, I'm starting with 1 cup of chopped nuts. I'm using just walnuts, but you can use pecans or hazelnuts or any other kinds of nuts that you have at hand, or a combination. And I've roasted these in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 8 to 10 minutes, and they're nice and toasty. And to this, I'm adding 1/4 of a cup of, you can use brown sugar, but I'm using coconut sugar. Usually brown sugar is what's used. To this, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of carob chips. I'm using carob chips, but you can use regular chocolate chips. And I'm also adding 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. If you like, if you like the taste of cinnamon, add more. If you don't, cut the cinnamon out completely too. To this, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of whole wheat flour. I'm using whole wheat flour because I'm going to be making the coffee cake with whole wheat flour as well, but you can use all-purpose flour. And we're going to stir everything together until everything is mixed in, all combined, and then we're going to start making our coffee cake. Everything is mixed in here, so we're going to set this aside. And then we're going to take a springform pan. A springform pan is a cake pan that comes in. It has 2 pieces. The bottom side comes out, and then you can sort of lock it in. And this is very handy to make things like coffee cake. So we're going to lock this in, and then I'm slightly going to grease this with some butter, especially on the sides and the bottom. And our final coffee cake, we're going to take out the side of the springform pan. So I'm going to also line this with parchment paper on the bottom so that it's easier to take out the cake at the end when we've baked it. So a simple trick to lining the bottom of the the bottom of the cake pan with parchment paper is you just fold it in half. You take a rectangular parchment paper, fold it in half, and then fold it in quarters, and then fold it again in this triangular shape one more time. And fold that triangle into half of the triangle again, the edge. Now we're just going to eyeball the center of the circle here and just mark where it ends. And we're going to cut off the end a little bit less than where we've marked off. First, I'm going to just cut it at the marking. Then I'm going to cut it just a little bit below that so that it fits in nice and snug. In a small bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of flaxseed powder. I'm using golden brown flaxseed. To this, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of water, and I'm just going to stir this in and set this aside, and this will be our egg replacement. Next, in a large bowl, I have 1/2 cup of softened butter, room temperature butter, and I'm just going to use my hand mixer to just whip this a little bit and make it nice and soft. If you don't have a hand mixer, you can just use just a regular whisk, but it's just going to take a little bit more elbow grease. So once the butter is softened, I'm going to add about a cup of, I'm using monk fruit sweetener, but you can use regular white granulated sugar. And we're just going to add this in as I'm whisking the butter. It just helps to mix it easier. So once we add the sugar, we're going to do a lot of whisking. And this is going to be a good 5 to 10 minutes with the hand mixer. If you don't have a hand mixer, it's going to take longer. But we want the sugar and butter mixer to be nice and fluffy, and that helps to make the coffee cake fluffy as well. Next, we're going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm using pure vanilla extract here. Mix that in. We're then going to use our flaxseed and water mixture, give that a quick mix again, and then add that to the butter and sugar mixture and give it a quick stir with the spatula. And I'm then going to use my hand mixer to mix it in very well with the rest of the ingredients. In another bowl, I'm going to use 1 2/3 cup of whole wheat flour. Normally, coffee cake is made with all-purpose flour, but I find that it doesn't make any difference to the taste if you use whole wheat flour, so might as well just use the whole wheat flour. Next, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to give this a good mix so that the baking soda and the baking powder and the salt mixes in with the flour. Next, we're going to add our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients in 2 batches. So we're going to add the flour mixture coupled with 3/4 cup of, I'm using Greek yogurt, but you can use plain yogurt. If you're using plain yogurt, just cut down on the amount of water you add. So I'm mixing my wet ingredients here and adding about 1/3 of my flour mixture, or like about half of my flour mixture, slowly so that the flour doesn't, splatter all over my face. And so we're going to give this a mix and then add about 1/3 of the yogurt into the mixture and give this a mix. Once the flour kind of mixes in, we're going to add the next batch of our flour mixture. And just to give it a little bit of a head start, I'm just going to mix that in a little bit and then again add the yogurt. And as you can see, this mixture is quite thick, and the coffee cake mixture is a thick batter, but this mixture is a little too thick. We're going to add a little bit of water later. So here I'm adding the last batch of my flour, and I'm also adding about 1/2 cup of water. If you're using, if you don't use Greek yogurt and use regular yogurt, you can cut down the amount of water. Or if you're unsure about how much water to use, just add, 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time until your wet and dry ingredient they mix together well. But it's not a runny mixture. We don't want a runny mixture because the coffee cake, we don't have runny batter. This is the type of consistency you want. It's kind of dollopy. It's not a runny mixture. So once we have our batter, we're now going to assemble our coffee cake. So in our springform pan, I'm going to eyeball about 1/2 of my batter. And because this is a thick batter, it's not going to be, poured in. So I'm going to add dollops around the pan and then kind of spread it around. So once we have a flat enough bottom of the coffee cake, we're just going to take our crumb coat mixture, and I'm just going to use my hands here and eyeball about 1/2 of the mixture and spread it evenly around the pan. If you spread it evenly, each slice gets a nice helping of the crumb coating. So make sure that you try to spread it as evenly as you can. As you can see, there's actually no coffee in this coffee cake. The name is because it goes well with a hot beverage. So once our coffee cake bottom half and the crumb coating is done, we're going to add the rest of our batter again in dollops
and we're going to try to spread the top part as well. Next, we're going to take the crumb coating, the rest of the crumb coating mixture, and we're going to spread it around evenly across the top of the coffee cake. So this goes into the oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. You might want to check on this at around 45 minutes mark just to see and make sure. So here it is out of the oven after about 50-55 minutes, and a toothpick inserted has come out clean. I'm just going to let this rest for 10 minutes and take a spatula or a butter knife and run it across the side of the pan. And then loosen the spring form and take out the side of the spring form and let the cake rest until it's ready to be served. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and as always, say a little prayer and share the love, and I'll see you in the next video.